8:30. Oops. I'm not sure what just happened. Okay. All right. Now we're streaming. Anyway, we feel the seasons moving along, and next Saturday night, I think we'll begin Havdalah at 8:30 as we move to a slightly earlier
As the
sundown.
sun sets earlier. Yeah, exactly. So, as is our custom, our little minhag, as it's called, we'll tell a little story and then do Kaddish and then close with Havdalah. So, I hope it's been a peaceful Shabbat and a few moments of rest, curiosity, fun. Anyway, Rabbi Israel was famous for and beloved for traveling from town to town. And he arranged to stay with one of his congregants. He would go from town to town to visit his different congregants. And in one town, David was his host. And Rabbi Israel arrives in the town and gets settled with David, and he's very excited. David wants to make sure the rabbi has the best food and the best linens for his
Of course, only the best for the rabbi.
Exactly. And it's wonderful. Of course, Rabbi Israel has lots of individuals who come and visit him at David's home. There is one concern or real problem that David has, which is that many of these disciples who come to visit him, they're schlepping a ways and their boots are very muddy. It's a problem. It is a problem. After all, in some of our homes, you have to take your shoes off. That was not the custom there and then. And it was such a problem, though, that 3 times a day, the family was having to mop the floors while Rabbi Israel was there. And actually, David got the courage to raise this concern with Rabbi Israel. He explained the concern, the problem, and Rabbi Israel, gently and calmly looked at David and asked him to sit down. And then Rabbi Israel told David a story. And the story is that Rabbi Israel told us that there's a poor family riding on its wagon. This is, the way that they could make ends meet. They went from little village to village. And one time it had just rained, and this wagon, which is old and crickety and not strong, collapsed. It got stuck in a ditch.
Rickety.
What did I say? Crickety?
Crickety, that too.
Rickety, exactly.
Rickety and crickety.
Crickety.
It was an old wagon.
They were not crickets. It was rickety, the wagon. And the wagon got stuck in this ditch and fell on its side, basically. And of course, the father, the mom, and 3 children had to get out, and they were mud all over them, and the wagon was broken to pieces. And lo and behold, as it would happen, the wealthiest man in one of the nearby towns was in his carriage coming the opposite direction. This man wasn't famous really for not being generous. People would go to his door, poor people would go to his door, knock on the door, and he would actually, the wealthy man would tell his servant, do not open the door. I'm not going to, whether they're asking for coins or food or a place to sleep, no. For some reason, though, the wealthy man was really something came over him. He felt sorry for this family, and he ordered his driver to stop the carriage, and he asked the driver to get out, and the 2 of them together actually went and helped the father, the wife, and the 3 children into his very beautiful carriage. And all the mud that they brought in the carriage, it was very out of character. Not only that, the wealthy man decided he wanted to pay for a new wagon. Anyway, this was very fortunate. The family were grateful, and several years later, the wealthy man died. And as happens, certainly as we understand in our tradition, when you die, you're called up to the court shel mala, the heavenly court, and the heavenly court will decide whether your soul gets to go to heaven immediately or needs a little bit more time. And the main angel who presides over the court, my lawyer background, I like this story. The main angel who presides over this court pulls out the scales of justice, and he calls with the gavel the session to order, and wants all of the good deeds on the scale and then all the bad deeds on the scale. And of course, if the good deeds outweigh the bad deeds, then the wealthy man will go immediately, his soul will go immediately to heaven. If the bad deeds outweigh the good deeds, he needs more time. As I told you, this man was not very generous, and so the scales went like this. No, I'm not going to give to Shmuli and to Yossi and to Moisha. And so it really was very out of balance and not in his favor. And I don't know if you all know how angels actually come into the world. How are angels come into the world? Angels generally are brought into the world by a good deed. Every time you perform a good deed, you create an angel. And so just before the angel who was in charge of this decision was ready to conclude the case, a little unknown angel raised his hand and said, "Wait, can I ask a question?" And the angel in charge says, "Of course." And the little angel says, "Well, I actually was created at the moment that this wealthy man invited this family onto his carriage and helped his driver bring them on. And so can I call the family to put on the scales? Because maybe the family members who the wealthy man helped will tilt the scale so that his soul can go to heaven immediately." Of course, the angel in charge said yes. So the little angel zipped off, only in a way that angels can do, traveled to the home of this family. The family was very surprised. Of course, if you need us, we'll come to the court of heaven, the heavenly court. And one by one, they get on the scale, and the scale goes, to the fourth, fifth family member, but still, even with all the family members, the scale was tilted to, no, your soul's not ready, wealthy man. And then the little angel had one final thought. He said, I have one more request. I need to go to make one more trip. So the angel flies off to collect a box, brings the box back to the heavenly court. Inside the box is the mud that the family schlepped onto the carriage. It was so much mud. And actually, first it was the mud that the wealthy man schlepped onto his carriage because he had gotten off the carriage to help the family. And with that, the scales were even. And then lastly, the little angel adds the mud to the side of good that makes the side of good outweigh the side of bad deeds. The mud that the family had brought on, that the wealthy man had allowed them to bring on. So, because the scales of justice had weighed to the side of good, the wealthy man's soul was ready to go to heaven. And with this, hearing this story from Rabbi Israel, David, he didn't need to hear another word. He totally learned the rabbi's lesson, and never again did he complain about mud. The miracle, the blessing of mud.
Doing mitzvahs can get messy.
It's true, but they can be powerful on the scales of justice.
So we are going to, before Havdalah, offer Kaddish, because there are those in our community seeking to remember loved ones in the context of community. And so inviting you to join with these words, to remember those that are dear to you, especially if it's a time of mourning and memory for you. Kaddish Yatom. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב יאמרו,
אמן.
יהי שמי רבא מברך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר, ויתרומם, ויתנשא, ויתהדר, ויתעלה, ויתהלל שמי קודשה, בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בימה, ויאמרו,
Amen.
אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ויאמרו, אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ויאמרו,
Amen.
amen. So hopefully today has brought some sweetness, maybe a swim at Parkwood Pool, maybe a walk, some refreshment for your soul. That's the point of Havdalah, to milk that sweetness and to bring it into the coming week.
Absolutely.
הנה ישועתי הבטח ולא אפחד, כי עוזי וזמרתיה ויהי לי לישועה, ושבתם מים בששון ממעייני הישועה. לאדוני הישועה לעמך ברכתך סלע. אדוני צבאות עמנו משכב לנו, אלוהי יעקב סלע. אדוני צבאות אשרי אדם בוטח בך, אדוני הושיע מלך יניב יוקרנו. ליהודים הייתה אורה ושמחה וששון ועיקר כן תהיה לנו. כוס ישועות אשא ובשם אדוני אקרא. כוס ישועות אשא ובשם אדוני אקרא. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן, בורא פרי הגפן, יאללה 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 ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם. בורא מיני בשמים, בורא מיני בשמים, יאללה 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 ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם. בורא מאורי האש, בורא מאורי האש, יאללה יאללה Now a blessing for the ability to make distinctions. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, המבדיל בין קודש לחול, בין אור לחושך, בין ישראל לעמים, בין יום השביעי לששת ימי המעשה. ברוך אתה אדוני המבדיל בין קודש לחול, המבדיל בין קודש לחול, חטאותינו ימחול, זרענו וכספנו ירבה כחול, וככוכבים בלילה. אליהו הנביא Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Agiladi, Bimera Be'amenu, Yahbo Aleinu, Imashiach ben David, Imashiach ben David, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Agiladi. Shavuato, 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 Shavuato. A good week, a week of peace. May your power go back on if it's not on, and generator power increase. A good week, a week of peace. May gladness reign and joy increase. Wishing you a sweet, good week. May we reach out and support each other in this time of clearing away debris. And we have some beloved congregants in hotels or camping out with friends. Please reach out if there's a way we can help.
Or if you could use some help of any kind, don't hesitate to be in touch. Okay? All right.
Love to
all.
everybody.
Safe week.